PBK has become part of the lifeblood of the district attorney's office. People really don't think of it as the formal long name of prosecuted by Carpel. It's PBK, and that phrasing, that acronym gets used thousands of times a day. The workflow has been streamlined tremendously. Now, instead of lugging files around the courthouse, we pay thousands of dollars a year just to store our files from the past. Everything now is inside the prosecutor's laptops, and it is far more efficient than it has ever been in the history of this office.
PBK has streamlined how we function from beginning to end, from the police agencies submitting their police reports to us electronically, to us giving electronic discovery to defense attorneys, and the attorneys have all documents at their access when they walk into court.
The biggest impact has been that we now have our electronic files, that we are no longer searching for, carrying around these big case files to go to court. So getting our hands on information is almost instantaneous. Had you been here 3 years ago, you would have seen a much different room. On these shelves, you would have seen nothing but file after file after file. Thousands of files, both misdemeanor and felonies. Because once we closed the case, we finished the prosecution, we would keep the files for several years. But by using an electronic system, such as PBK, we have been able now to empty out this file room for all the closed files, and yet we still have the information that we need stored in PBK. We were able to have all of our legacy data transferred over into PBK. So I can look up a case from 1984. The training process for Carpel went very smoothly. Carpel told us what it would look like. They told us what each division would need, and Carpel was here with us for a couple of weeks, working every day, training different groups on how to use PBK.
But it didn't finish there. It takes ongoing use, and PBK remained on site, provided us with answers, and always has a help desk that we can call when we need to continue to ask questions to try and explore something that particularly old people like me aren't really familiar with. So it's been a good training program for us. Our charging process has been dramatically changed in this sense. Now we are not relying on police reports being brought to us in stacks of paper. Instead, the law enforcement is electronically filing their reports with us. My prosecutors, instead of sitting there trying to plow through thousands of pages of reports, instead can look at it directly from the agency on the computer screen, do the quick analysis of what needs to be done, and then be able to charge the case right there at their desk. For one case, it would probably take a major part of a morning. Today, it's a process that can be done with one person dealing with it electronically in a matter of just a few minutes. It was an extremely stressful situation years ago in how we dealt with the files coming in. We'd hear about a case that, to follow the euphemism, slipped behind the file cabinet. It wasn't just a piece of paper. There was a real victim in that case. There was a real police agency that wanted to be able to make sure that there was a prosecution done if appropriate. And that would fall apart by the wayside, and that would be injustice. We don't have that under PBK.
From the perspective of a victim advocate, PBK is really helpful because we can see very easily the history of a defendant. So in a domestic violence case, we may be able to see the defendant's repeated behavior and or patterns that can help us inform the victim about safety planning. It can help us in conversations with the prosecutor to, see if maybe they need to reevaluate the charges that were filed. It's very helpful to have all that information in one place.
At the risk of sounding big brother-ish or big sister-ish, it is very easy to find out what each person has done on their cases. I can tell who did what task. I can see who was the last person to touch that case. I can see when a motion was filed. I can see if a motion wasn't filed. and I can track how many cases each person is handling. I can track what cases are sitting in their queue that they haven't looked at yet, and figure out who is maybe behind in reviewing their cases.
The accountability that PBK provides to my team of letting me as a manager and my manager see what's going on in these cases day in and day out is very important to me. I'm elected by the voters of San Mateo County to make sure that prosecution is done with integrity and in the proper fashion. I can look at PBK and see precisely what is being done. It creates accountability both for me and it creates accountability for my troops, but in the end, it's all for the public. That's what it's about.